In this video, I'm going to be going over my plans on what I'm going to do to retire in 2021. It's pretty early. I'm going to be 28 according to my projections on when this is going to happen, but it's been a goal I've been working on for like 5 years now, pretty much since I've been out of college. So around 4 years ago, my coworker who had just graduated college, they pretty much asked me what my 5-year plan was, and like I was already 1 year into the plan. I ended up failing that goal. I told them I wanted to not have to work for money and work just because I want to work, or not work if I don't want to. Ever since like 3 months into my first job in 2015, I was around 22 years old at the time. This was something I've been working on. It's like, I don't know why, it just never fit with me. Like all this school, all this college, all this work, I've never really enjoyed any of that. Like a lot of people say that they love school, they love college, but like that wasn't really me. And same goes for working. I don't know if you guys feel the same. If you do, let me know down in the comments below, because it seems like I'm pretty alone in this. I know a couple of other people who have the same sentiments, but it's definitely not the majority. And again, this wasn't because my job was like so terrible. My situation is better than so many other people's. It's actually incredible. So I might be like pretty spoiled in saying this, but like it was more because I lacked true freedom whenever I have to wake up at a certain time every day. And like on weekends, if something bad happens, I have to go ahead and try to deal with it. So when you're on the clock, you have to be there every time. And when you're off the clock, are you really off the clock? But yeah, that's why I started this whole financial independence journey around 5 years ago. And I just completed year 5, just started year 6. So hopefully after year 6, we can end this whole thing and then I could like do whatever I want in my life, you know? So apart from like hating the traditional style of life, you guys might be wondering like when this all started. When I was around 9 years old, my mom opened a bank account with me and I was introduced to interest rates. Back then, we had advertisements for like 5% interest rates, and those were really common. And I was told that like they were even higher in the past, such as like in the 80s and stuff like that. And only a child could interpret interest earned as free money, right? Because it's obviously not free money. So right away, I asked my mom, like, how much money do I need to have saved up to make $1 million a year from this interest? It was like making $1 million a year for free. Like anyone would probably say, sign me up, you know? But yeah, only a 9-year-old can approach this situation with such like naivety or something like that, you know? So after being taught how to calculate it, it would take around $20 million at 5% interest rate. I was immediately hooked to this idea because I was like, I want to get there. You know, what do I got to do in life to like get to that point? Obviously I was 9, so like not all these things I stick with throughout my entire like teenage years, all my college years and all that. But yeah, making money was always like an interest of mine. It's like really fun to me. It's like getting like a high score in a video game. A lot of people are going to hate me for saying that, but like it's honestly just true. It's just fun to see numbers go up. That's why we play video games, you know? It's like same thing with real life. You could treat real life as like a video game too. I know there's like pain and suffering, but like there's pain and suffering in video games too. I probably get the most angry while playing video games, if you guys know me from my different channel. But yeah, in this day and age, all those sorts of dreams got shattered because interest rates are so low. You're lucky to get anything close to 1%. Even in like a savings account, you can't touch for like 50 years or whatever. I'm exaggerating all these points, by the way. But my bank, in a checking account, they offered me like 0.01% because I'm like a honors member or whatever to get that rate. And the savings accounts are like 0.03%. So it's like, why would I have any of these, you know? I know that other banks offer more, like I think Ally offers like 0.5% right now, but that still really isn't anything substantial. It's like pennies, you know? So instead I turned to the equity markets to get returns on my portfolio and my savings. Most people who participate in financial independence retire early, which is called like the FIRE movement, they like to use index funds a lot. And personally, I don't use index funds apart from my 401k where like that's the only option. So generally I invest directly into publicly traded equities, and I'll explain why in a later post, why I don't like index funds and most other investment vehicles, but we'll save that for a different day. On average, most equity markets return somewhere around 5%. And while past performance does not predict future results, not even close, the United States in particular has returned 7 to 9% since like the 1900s historically. So to be conservative, I would estimate the rate of return for the United States to be around 7%. And this is all after inflation as well. I think like NYU keeps track of the return of the S&P 500 every year, and it comes out to like 9.5%, somewhere around there. It depends what year you start. But yeah, that's a pretty big return. So after inflation, it's around 7%. So right when I started working, my goal was to retire before I was 30. Actually, like throughout my whole life, that's kind of been my goal. But that gives me 8 working years out of college. And while my retired lifestyle might not be as glamorous as I'd imagine growing up, like I'm not going to be making $1 million a year, guys. I'm sorry to say that. If you guys were looking for that type of content, like there's a lot of people who pretend to live that lifestyle elsewhere. But no, we're not doing that here. You guys would be surprised at like how little I spend throughout the year. But yeah, I've had to learn some adjustments to still make this work. And here's where I currently stand. The basic premise of FIRE is to generate income larger than your expenses. And when using an investment portfolio to generate income, most people use what's called like the 4% rule, which is from the Trinity study. I'll leave a link in the description below if I remember. Essentially, the study suggests that you can use like 4% of your investment portfolio on like expenses year to year and pretty much have like a very high survival rate for that. I think it's around like 90% survival rate for 40 years or 60 years. I forget which. So essentially, if you're like 25, 6 years later, there's a very high chance that you will not have gone bankrupt. I've even heard the guy who made this study say it's even safe to do 5% because 4% assumes that you retired in like the worst possible year, like right before a market crash, for example. A lot of that doesn't apply to me because I invest in individual companies and not ETFs or mutual funds, like ones that track the S&P 500 or the total market, which is what a lot of other people do. So they might be more susceptible to that, but we'll get into my portfolio in a later video. In America, the median household income is around $68,700. I think this was numbers in 2019. And in order to generate this much money from an investment portfolio, you need to earn around like $1.7 million. And since most jobs out of college, surprise, surprise, guys, they do not pay well enough to earn $1.7 million in 8 years. Even at a 7% rate of return, that would require you to earn $165,000 straight out of college with just an undergraduate degree for 8 years. Salaries normally start low and end up higher, so you'd probably need an even higher average to accomplish this. So instead of making this much money, which is like very difficult, you pretty much have to be an engineer going straight into Google or going straight into investment banking, private equity, hedge funds. Those types of jobs, they pay somewhere between like 150 to like 250 starting like right out of undergrad, but those are like very, it's harder to get into those companies than it is to get into like Harvard. In fact, a lot of hedge funds and private equity firms, they don't even recruit at undergraduate places. So you have to be like the math champion of 2020 to get a job there. You know, it's like very difficult. I do know some people who have made that jump, but they are very on top of everything on their game. And yeah, they end up making like $200,000 to like $400,000 a year, like a couple of years later. It's like, it's nuts. But like, we're not doing that here. We're going to be aiming towards more of like a realistic after college salary, because that's what I had. Like mine is above average, but it's nothing like crazy above average, right? But turns out we don't even need to spend $68,000 a year because it turns out it's pretty easy to live a lot cheaper than the average American. Because a lot of Americans waste a ton of money. No surprise there. In future videos, I'll get into how to reduce your future spending. And I get it, like not everyone spends the whole $68,000. Like some people save some of it, but essentially like since I'm used to a particular lifestyle, I needed to make some money, but also needed to reduce compared to the average American. But turns out like I live super cheaply apparently. I'm in like the 5th most expensive city in the US. And I do take pride in the fact that I am able to keep my non-housing related expenses to $6,000 per year. Of course, when I retire, I will need to take housing into account, but I'm gonna move after that, so I don't need to pay like most expensive city prices anymore. So I'm around 80% of the way to my nest egg goal, which means that I have less than 1 year before I retire. For the record, I'm way ahead of schedule for this. I'll be 28 by that time, and like my target was 30, so I do have a lot of breathing room in case of like market crashes, whatever. And the main reason why I've been able to close this gap is because my portfolio returns have been a little nuts. Nothing like too crazy. I didn't like hit the lottery or anything like that, but they are above average. So it might be a little difficult for other people, or if you like make less money per year, which is very possible. But if you're in like a STEM major or like that type of career path, it's gonna be pretty easy to do. If you're not, you're just gonna have to work extra hard or just spend less money every year. Both of which are very manageable in my opinion, especially the reducing spending amounts. That's probably the easiest one to do. Like working harder, not everyone wants to do that. Not everyone's capable of doing that, but reducing spending, like anyone can do that. So let's get back on topic. Let's go back to my plans for 2021. Technically right now, With my YouTube income from my gaming channel, I could retire today. It's not that much money that I'm making from that channel, but because my expenses are so incredibly low, I could do that today with my investment income added onto it. However, I want to like live a little larger, you know, I'm a little guilty of that, even though I live like pretty frugally. All my friends make fun of me for this, by the way I live. But like even then, I still want to spend like a little more than what I'm spending right now, because I feel like every year that goes on in life, I want to be living better. And while that doesn't necessarily mean spending more money, it's a lot easier to do that, you know? But yeah, I want to reach my actual nest egg target that I set for myself 5 years ago, because that means I won't have to rely on any sort of outside income, and I could pretty much do whatever I want and not have anyone threaten me with money or like force me to make money for them, which I think is very empowering. Everyone has different opinions on that, but for me, that's my goal. And even if my YouTube money like skyrockets, like I'm still not going to retire till I reach that net worth goal. But if you guys are curious about how to start a successful YouTube channel, especially in gaming, I'll release videos on that at a future time. So if you guys are new, go ahead, subscribe for that if you guys are interested in starting a gaming channel. So as of recording right now, I can retire in October of 2021. However, there's some things to consider. You don't always want to retire like right away, because I do get a 401k match and HSA money from my employer on January 1st. So if I stay like November and December, I could get that money, which is essentially like free money, right? So that gives me 3 options. It's either retire today, live off of YouTube income and try to increase it. But I don't want to do that because I don't like going like super sellout on like ads and stuff. It's like, I don't want to take every partnership that comes my way. Like I only want to take ones that are like either very relevant for me or ones that like you literally can't say no to. So that leaves me with 2 options, which is either retire in October or wait till January 1st, 2022. What do you guys think so far? Should I wait for that HSA money and the 401k match? I'm not going to give the exact info out because then people can extrapolate what my salary is, but it's around $5,000 to $10,000 that I could potentially get extra if I stayed till January 2021. Not to mention I get salary for 2 more months, which is obviously going to be still good. However, if I retire on January 1st, it might also be easier to like get health insurance through a private insurer, or I could just forego that and just self-insure. I'm also like working from home because of all the COVID stuff, so it's a pretty high quality of life boost compared to what I was doing before. Before I was like traveling around the country, staying in hotels every week, and while it sounds cool on paper, it is difficult to do every single week because you are not home that often, and even though eating at restaurants a lot is really nice, you miss home, and you lack kind of like stability when you do that. And it's high stress, going on planes super early, going on planes super late at night, not fun things to do. It's fun for like a couple weeks or a couple months, but like doing it every day, if I had like 1 week remote every month, like that would make it like a ton more manageable, or maybe do it every other week. But essentially all this stuff adds like a 12 to 15 hour commute every week for me, which I know some people have worse commutes than that, but I don't think anyone should have that long of a commute. I feel like everyone should have under a 2-hour commute per week, which is essentially living right next to work. And that's just because every minute you devote to working, even if you're not generating any salary, is kind of like time devoted to working. That's like showering, getting dressed. For a lot of women, it's like putting on makeup that takes a long time, doing people's hair, contact lenses, thinking about work at night, scheduling your alarms around work. All this stuff adds up. You spend a lot more time than just 40 hours a week if you're working like a 40-hour-a-week job devoted to work. It's more like 60 hours, even more than that sometimes. That's why I always advocate just like live right next to work, because you pretty much give yourself a raise whenever you do that. But we're getting off topic. Another thing to consider is that November and December, they are pretty easy months to work because we have Thanksgiving and we have Christmas and the New Year. So essentially I'm giving up vacation days if I do not work those months. And maybe I could like do something fun with that money. You know, maybe I could go like throw it on some really risky investments. Maybe I could like donate it to charity. Who really cares, because it's extra money. But during this time frame, I'll also have to consider when it is the best time to move. And right now I'm thinking about moving to Miami. Essentially, I want to go to a state that has low taxes or non-existent taxes. And the ones that are most relevant to me are New Hampshire, Texas, Florida. And I know Tennessee is one of them, but I really do not like Tennessee, the cities in Tennessee. And that's just a personal choice, but Tennessee would be theoretically the best place to early retire because they have some of the lowest cost of living cities there, and they have no taxes on your state income tax, which is obviously very good, right? But right now I'm thinking Miami. I could go to like some of the suburbs around there. I could go to the other cities near it, maybe Orlando, Tampa, Austin. I could also just go to New York. New York has high taxes, but since I'm not making much money once I retire, I won't really care about that. But leave in the comments below like where you think I should move and why. But yeah, I'll have to coordinate a move which either involves like a ton of driving or like paying a mover like $1,000 to $2,000. While these aren't the cheapest areas either, I know like Miami and Austin are both pretty expensive. I feel like they're cool cities to live in, so I do kind of want that aspect in my life as well. I am trying to get married, so it's like places with high population density probably are going to lead more towards that, so that's my reasoning for that too. But yeah, that's it for now. Again, I'm 80% of the way to financial independence goal, and it took me around 5 years to get to this point. So hopefully I could get it done ahead of schedule, which is before 30. I'll continue to update you guys on my progress, but in the meantime, many more techniques that I want to share with you that I've personally used in the past or plan to use in the future, and hopefully it might apply to some people. Obviously, everyone's individual situation is different, but if you guys enjoyed this video, go ahead, subscribe down below, like the video, do all that nonsense. And again, leave me comments. Where do you think I should live, and should I retire in January 2022 or in October 2021? But apart from that, I'll see you guys later.